Okay, we are live. You're watching Out of the Box podcast. I'm your host, Jim Andre. I got my co-host here, Bradley Powers, who has introduced me to this special guest. Could you introduce the guest, Bradley?
Yeah, I sure can. This is Leslie Jon Heldzingen. Okay, and he is an alien contactee. Possibly has an implant within his persona, and he is going to share the most amazing experience that is quite rare to mankind, yet not to Leslie. Leslie's first experience of visitations began in 1992 when he was 19 years old. So, would you like to begin from there, Leslie?
Yeah, I was back in '92. I was just I was a headbanger back then. I was in a death metal band, and I was living in my parents' garage. And uh, then just one night, I'm just laying in bed, and the garage is quite dark, so I didn't get much. Wasn't much light there in there anyway. And then I had this dread come over me, and I couldn't move. And I heard these things come into the room, and they surrounded me, and I could hear like little feet surrounding me. And I'm thinking, well, what the hell is this? And why can't I move, etc., etc. And then all of a sudden, it was like, this is how it felt like. It's like, if I got a pen and I jabbed it to the side of my head really hard. And at that point of contact, when that happened, all of a sudden a stream of felt like violent electricity from the point of contact just flowed straight through my body, and I was like heavily vibrating, freaking out. And then within felt like it lasted maybe 10, 20 seconds, and I blanked out. I woke up in the morning, and I was fine. And usually I wake up several times during the night, but this time I just slept. I was just knocked out straight through, and I woke up thinking, "What the hell was that?"
Now, did you experience paralysis? Did you experience paralysis where you weren't able to move?
Yeah, you would describe like that, I suppose. I couldn't move, so basically
Right.
I was
Yeah.
paralyzed.
Yeah. That's common.
Um,
That's usually common as well. In them incidents.
it was very, very strange. Very, didn't know what the hell was going on. But my logical sort of conclusion that they were aliens. What else could it be? Something coming into my room, or maybe it was some people doing this to me. I wasn't too sure, but I had this sort of sneaking inkling these were some alien beings maybe. And I never had sleep paralysis before at all during my life, well, not that I can recall. And then after that, would have been a few days later, it would felt like I was in bed, and it felt like something would grab my arm, and I'd go into this vibration. My whole body will start vibrating, and then it would stop, and I wouldn't be able to move for about 10 seconds, and I'll be able to move, and I'd look around the room, and I wouldn't see anything there. And this was happening 2 to 3 to 4 times, and this went on for like a year or so. But shortly after it started, I was like, I was afraid, I was scared, and I wasn't telling anyone because it just sounded so ridiculous. And then one night, I woke up, and I had a white, glowing, typical grey alien leaning over me, just staring straight into my face, straight into my eyes, and it had the typical tiny slit for a mouth, 2 dots for a nose, large almond eyes, typical shape, like head. How do you describe it? And it was glowing white, and it was almost as if. Now I'm not too sure if this was artificially induced or not, I see that as a possibility. But what it felt like to me, I was feeling its feelings and vice versa. And it was like an intense feeling of happiness and love and joy, whatever. And it was telepathically saying to me, don't be afraid, we're not going to harm you. And, I was in this like state of bliss looking at it thinking, oh, this is the best thing I've ever seen. This is great, whatever's happening. And again, it would look like it was telepathically smiling at me.
Right. So that was a telepathic connection. Yeah.
Yes, I believe so. And again, what I did was I blacked out. I blacked out, and I woke up in the morning thinking, what the hell was that? And the funny thing was, I'd seen this being before at the video store. The one I'm talking about. This is back in '92. Would have been on VHS back then, and it was the film Communion. And I thought, this is weird. So I went down and had a look at the video. I went to hide the video because I'd seen it before, but I never hid it because I thought it was a UFO documentary and something I wasn't interested. I like watching sci-fi movies and that, but I wasn't really interested in documentaries. And so I had a look at the cover, and it looked slightly different. The eyes were the same, similar shaped head. The mouth that I saw was a tiny slit, where the Whitley Strieber version has got almost a humanized mouth and almost a small nose. But mine just had 2 dots for a nose and just a straight slit.
Uh-huh.
And I watched it, and I was watching it in disbelief because what I saw, there were some similarities. What happened to me, what happened to this guy, back then I didn't really know who Whitley was, who was it? Christopher Walken, who played the Whitley Strieber character. Yep. So the whole thing was just stunning. Just thinking, what is going on? And because I'm realizing other people are experiencing the same thing that I've experienced. So from there, if I watched it, freaked out, and again didn't tell anyone. A little bit later on, now I can't remember which comes first because it's so long ago, but my mother eventually approached me. She came downstairs and knocked on the garage door. I opened it, and she goes, "Has anything strange been happening to you?" And I said, I sort of let it out, and I thought, well, specifically at night. And I just let it out and said, "Yeah, Mum, I've been abducted by aliens. It's, all this weird shit's been going on. I've been doing this, been doing that." And she said, "Okay, but so I've been having experiences from when I was young where I would get into that similar vibrational effect, and I used to levitate. But my sister, she's been getting, I think, known as like the old hag syndrome, where you have something pressing on your chest."
Uh-huh.
And this was happening between me and my sister. This sort of happened around the same time. And so, okay, this is strange. And then because my mum's a psychologist, she explained to me what this sounds like is sleep paralysis, but what you're describing to me is not exactly sleep paralysis, that's something else. So that just left me confused, because now I'm thinking all this is in my mind. Okay, I'm crazy. Okay, mystery solved. Now again, I wasn't too sure if what happened next will happen before, but I was at one of the band members couldn't drive. He didn't have a license, and we went to the drummer's house, and I had to drive him back home, and he lived close by to me, and it's a fair sort of a trip back home. And so I'm driving along, and this is at night, and all of a sudden I saw this too tall, too thin being walk across the road, just casually walk across the road. Didn't look at me. It looked old. I couldn't see its facial features, only what it looked like side on. And I was stunned looking at it. And then I turned to my friend and I said, "Did you see that?" did you see the that being walk across the road? And all he said was, "Yep." And I sort of said, "Oh, I would have expected him to be a bit more shocked, but at least I felt at least I had some validation of what was going on with me." So I started explaining to him what was going on, and he just kept on looking at me going, "Oh, yeah." And I thought he's not really responding to me. It was like he was forgetting everything that I was saying to him. And usually we're chatting all the way back home. We're in the car. We're just talking about just normal shit. And I decided, hey, I'll try not to say anything and just see what happens, see if he responds. And he just had this blank look, just staring at the road, and that was it. And so I tried to explain to him what's going on. Each time I said something, it was like he would remember, but each time I stopped speaking, it was like he forgot. And then we got back to his place, and I said to him, "Hey, mate, do you remember what we just saw?" And he pointed to me, goes, "Yeah." And then this blank look went over his face, and he walked off. And I thought, what just happened? And so the next, what I can remember, next time I saw him was we had a jam session, and I asked him, "Hey mate, do you remember what was going on?" And he sort of fobbed me off. And it was like he didn't want to talk about it. And I just didn't know what to do. But basically that was it. It was like the incident never happened to him. So from there, I just had the continual sort of like vibrational effects continually happen. And then I moved up north to a suburb called Seymour in Victoria. I was there. It was like a few headbangers living there, and one day I knew these beings were in the house. This is during the day, probably around lunchtime, and I could almost see them. These small, short beings walking around the house, and I thought I might try an experiment. Let's try like this little experiment. So I told everyone I was going to crash for a little while. So I went into the bedroom. Again, I'm on a mat on the floor. I lay down, and I said out loud, if there's alien beings here, can you please give me a sign so I know I'm not crazy? So I lay down, and it was like something grabbed both my legs, like two beings grabbing a leg each, and they started dragging me around the room while I'm paralyzed. And I blanked out, and probably about 5 minutes later, I woke up again. And I thought, okay, that's a sign. That's a good sign. Yeah, fair enough. Following on from that, the next incident was shortly after. I was laying in bed, and I was taken out of bed, and I blanked out. I woke up, and it felt like I was in this strangely moving car, and in front of me was a friend of mine and a lady friend of mine. So there's the male friend was driving the car, and the lady friend was the passenger in the front. And so I woke up, and I can see, going through the trees and the mountain, because it was a sort of a bushy area. And I blanked out. No, the lady looked at me. I blanked out. I woke up, and it was like I'm in a aircraft hangar. That's the only way I can probably describe it. It looked like an aircraft hangar. I think there was something behind me, and in front of me was these like casually dressed humans. That's what they look like, humans, just like dads going shopping, say, just casually dressed, and they're in a circle and they're all talking. One of them looked at me, and I blanked out. I woke up. I'm in front of the front door, and I was like levitated horizontally. And then I felt myself moving through the door, and I blanked out. And then next I remember being laid down back into bed. And then I was just laying there for probably about 3 minutes. And I got up and, there's nothing around. Again, what the hell just happened? So from there, my experiences sort of started to dwindle. This vibrational effects started becoming only a few times a year from 1995. I ended up moving back back to Melbourne, in a suburb called Footscray. Stayed there for a while. Nothing spectacular happened, and then so nothing really happened until 2003.
I will say, Leslie, so nothing happened until 2003. I'd like to say that Brian Parkway says he's loving this video. He's really enjoying this interview with you. Okay. He says they always telepathically say that to calm you down and relax you. Brian said this is the best abductee interview ever. Good job, Brad and Jim. And
thank you for that, Brian. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Brian says your experiment was amazing. They automatically paralysed to interact you around the room. You asking for that sign. Okay.
Now, Les, you also mentioned that you have an implant as well, right?
Yeah, it's possible. It's either a cyst or I've had a doctor look at it, and he just said it was a cyst. I haven't had it opened up. It's something I hopefully I can find a doctor who's willing to examine it. If it is some sort of implant, I'm thinking maybe I should leave it in there. If it's just a cyst, well, it's just a cyst then.
Maybe you could get an X-ray that might shed some light on it.
Yeah, I'm willing to try. Yeah, I've some people have also mentioned ultrasound as well. A friend actually was shining light through it. Got a high-powered light.
Yeah.
And he said it actually looks more transparent. It's actually where he's shining the light through it. Looks like the light. It's more light's coming through just that part than the surrounding parts of my ear. So I don't know what to make of that. Again, it's weird.
Yeah.
And so I continue on.
Yeah. So, sorry to interrupt you, but I just thought I'd get that out there. Because we do actually share what the members and the viewers say, and I just wanted to say to you, Leslie, they are really enjoying the show, and as Brian says, this is probably the best interview ever. He's really enjoying it.
Yeah.
So thank you, Leslie.
Well, it's going to get stranger. So
thank you.
So 2003 was the weird one. I mean, by that time, I sort of hit a downward spiral. I ended up moving back home. It was like a doll bludger. So I wasn't really doing much. And but I was on the net by then. I'd made basic HTML websites, and I got into DVD ripping back then. Just something fun to do. Plenty of time on my hand, and even used to write guides for to how to do it. And it's like these days, it's like a one-click solution. Back then, we had to sort of do all these processes. So all these little tools were made, but it wasn't one tool. But anyway, and I also got into other things like geopolitics. I was heavily into geopolitics back then as well, especially in regards to the weapons of mass destruction and all that. I was sort of analyzing what was going on, and I was noticing that the corporate media would say something completely different to what these people from the independent media were saying. And these people from the independent media kept on coming out to be right about everything that they were saying. So I was really surprised. And so I ended up probably that or just before the incident in 2003 happened, I had turned off my TV. I had stopped watching corporate media TV and free-to-air TV altogether. And I haven't. And when I turn on the TV,
Yeah, that's all
that
fake.
was back in.
20
That
years.
was probably 21 years ago. 21 years ago, I stopped watching corporate run TV or free-to-air TV.
Yeah, that's all fake news anyway.
I haven't watched television for
yeah.
like 13 years, so you're doing the right thing, Leslie. Nothing wrong in that.
Jim McFarlane is in the house.
Yeah.
How you doing, Jim?
Hi, Jim.
And John Mormon says, intriguing interview.
Only the best.
So, yeah,
for
it
you
gets
guys.
weirder. This is the thing that sort of. So yeah, it gets stranger. In 2003, it was probably around about 11 o'clock at night, 10:30, 11. I was just reading a book, and I heard like a rustling outside, and I thought that's strange. And this is I'm on the second floor, and there's a veranda with a balcony. There's a balcony. So I went out and had a look, and there was these small shadowy beings, probably about 3 or 4 of them, and they nimbly jumped over the railings, and they're looking at me through the railings. Again, they're hard to look at. It's the only way I can describe it. And I thought nothing of it. I thought, okay, they're here. I might as well just let them do what they're going to do. And usually, I thought, they're just going to do something weird and go. So I went down and I lay down, and I thought, I'm going to just ignore this. That's the way I felt. And so I went to lay down, and then I heard a voice in my head telepathically saying to me, get up. I thought to myself, am I thinking this? Did I just think this randomly? This random thought just popped in my head. And then it said, if you don't get up, you're going to hear a loud noise in your ear. So I did again. I did nothing. I ignored him, and then all of a sudden, it was like, if I can describe, it was like a jet engine from far away coming to me, coming right up to my ear. It was unbelievably loud, unbelievably annoying. So I got up. I really had no choice. And from there, I didn't see these beings. I didn't see. They were in the room, but they didn't allow me to see them for some reason. So they were invisible, whatever. And they said to me, first thing they said to me is, turn on your computer. So I said, okay. And so these, the old computers, they take, Windows XP, it'll take a while to sort of start up and all this. But this took like, say, I was standing there for like 5 minutes while my computer was just starting up with a black screen, and I could hear the computer running. And then it just started up normally. And that was it. And I said, why did he do that? What was that about? They said something that I was being watched. Okay, and that's all I know. And then they asked me for, I had a CD rewritable, and it had like my backups of like my software which I use for ripping DVDs, and had backups for my website, so, images and stuff like that for the website that I made. And they asked for it. They said, can we have it? And I said, yeah, sure. All right. So I picked it out. I brought it out and said, they said, take it outside. So I went outside. I went and jumped the fence because the gate was locked. So I went out the back, and I'm walking down, it's called St. Leonard's Street, or St. Leonard's Avenue. And I'm walking along, and they said, keep going, walk down the street. So I'm walking along, and I see a man walking towards me. And he looked like he was sort of tallish, probably 6 foot. He's had like black hair, maybe Mediterranean looking, a little bit lanky. And as he went past, he smelled of alcohol, and he made this inhuman noise. And as I passed him, I'm looking at this guy, thinking, this is weird. As I passed him, I heard the voice again in my head say, that's one of us. Okay, so fair enough. So I kept walking, and then at the end of the street, by the way, this is in St. Kilda by this time. So I'm in St. Kilda, St. Leonard Street. And so I dropped the CD off on the corner, where they told me to put it. So I said, okay, I'll do that. And they told me to walk back. So I started walking back. And the same guy was walking in the opposite direction. And this is by this time it's probably past midnight maybe. And as he was walking back, I couldn't smell any alcohol. He just had this blank expression on his face, like before he was like staggering if he was drunk or something. But I couldn't notice anything. And he just walked past me, and that was it. Okay, so I went back inside. We talked about a few things that I do, like again, websites I go to, or what do you do, what I like doing. And we talked about the website, which I sort of wrote about them in a way, and they said it was historic, the website. And I thought, okay, that's interesting, because I can't see anything historical about it, but fair enough. And then which this is the thing that's really gotten me for the whole time, is the next part. They told me to sit on my bed with the feet up on my bed, and with my sort of like this, with my knees up, feet on the bed.
Yeah.
And so I'm sort of sitting there. I was like, okay, all right, I'll do that. And then all of a sudden it's like I slowly started to fade into outer space. So I'm like in my room and I'm in outer space at the same time, and all of a sudden I'm seeing stars flying past me. And the room disappears, and I come to this planet. It's like a blue-green planet. I couldn't recognize if it was Earth or anything. I didn't recognize any Earth continents or countries. And so I was looking down at this blue-green planet, and then I was thrust back, and I was taken back, which I imagine back to Earth, or I suppose. And the first vision, which I can sort of describe, it's difficult. It's probably the most difficult vision to describe, but it was like there was some sort of structure, almost looked like an oil refinery, but it wasn't. I could see like all these pipes sort of structure, but people were just casually walking around them. And all around it, everything was quite lush. It's just like, bush area or something, a forest area or something. But there was like a valley, like a small valley, and there was this, I don't know what that was. And then another vision I saw was like a mountain range. Okay, so picture a mountain range, but along this mountain range was this huge scaffolding, but they were like walkways. Again, they look like these things were made of pipes. That's again, it's the only way I can describe it. And there was these huge like walkways just going along these, like almost to the top of these mountains. And it was like built almost like at the bottom of the range, and they just came straight up. And I see this like a little girl, probably about 11. She's huffing and puffing, getting up sort of like a little bit of an incline, and she just walked past me. She was just, dressed in like a tracksuit attire. And the vision was very bright, and it was almost like a fisheye lens effect. And that's the way it looked. So I said, okay. And then I was back out in space, and I'm just seeing space, and then all of a sudden I see like a sea of symbols in front of me. There's all these symbols, and they all started coming towards me. I mean, what's this? And every single time a symbol entered me, they started entering me. It was like my knowledge started to grow. So each symbol entered into my body. It was like I knew something more and more and more. Then I got to the point where I knew how to use, they say I could only describe it as an intergalactic internet or something. And I was able to look at some sort of information, and there was like a circle on my bottom left, which I was able to operate, which could let me look at something. So I just wanted to look at something basic, because I didn't want to have some sort of sort of quantum physics secret, which we haven't worked out yet. Something, that allowed me to retain. And so I was wanted to look at some sort of planet that was on par with humans in regards to internal combustion engines, something basic like that.
Right.
I did see something, but I can't remember, and I'll sort of I'll get to that later. And then came back, and the symbols now were like flooding into me now. Well, like instead of like slowly coming, they were just pumping into my head. And then I got to the point where I knew everything they knew, and what they're doing, and their plans, their program. And my impression that I had was that I was thinking, like, this is awesome, man. This is the best thing. Yeah. This is great. Every single symbol that I got was like, I knew what they were doing was well, supposedly it was beneficial, supposedly.
Right.
And so and then I got to the point where I was going, okay, I understand. And I said that 3 times because it started getting painful, all this information in my head. And then they said, we're going to make you forget that. And I thought, what? This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen, and you're going to make me forget it. And I tried to grab. It was like I was trying to actually grab in my mind a piece of the information which was given to me. I was just trying to, and I'll just try and remember that, but I couldn't. It just all slipped out. And then what happened was I had a like a vision of people in a park, and they're just casually walking around. People in a park, and behind them was like a big rock structure, but it looked like it had been carved out to have some sort of shelter dwelling there, like some sort of shelter. And then the final vision was, for some reason, seemed to be the most important. Whatever reason, I saw again. It was in a park area. It was in a sort of grassy, hilly. I think there was some sort of like houses maybe in the background, but far away. And there was these 2 huge pipes sort of coming up round into the ground, right close to each other. Probably each pipe was about 3 meters in diameter. But in front of them was this little girl. She would probably been 4 or 5 years old, with black hair. She was wearing a little blue dress, and just like a curious looking at the ground. And that was basically it. Then my vision started coming back on, and I'm back in the room, and it was it finished. It was gone,
Yeah. Well,
So then I thought, fuck this.
there's only 2 possibilities there. Either that was some type of astral projection that you experienced, or an actual abduction. But I'm betting that it was an abduction, actually.
Yeah, I see it as a download that they gave me. They gave me a download for some reason.
You see, now you've been programmed with that download, and I believe that when that information is ready to be put forth, something will trigger your memory, and you'll be able to remember all that. That's why I suggested earlier. That's why I suggested earlier, that you look up prof circles and different symbols within them. It might trigger your memory somewhat.
Yeah, no, I
excellent
never really
news. This show's been shared 83 times. Okay.
Wow.
83 times. Wow.
And you've still got fingers and thumbs.
Yeah. Hey, now I can pay attention to Leslie. 83 times this show's been shared, Leslie. Thank you for sharing what your experience is. Please do carry on.
Yeah, sure. So then what happened was, I don't know if I should tell you this, but I'll tell you anyway. I pulled out a joint and I smoked it in front of him, and I thought, I'm just gonna do this. So I had one spare, so I thought, yeah, why not? And I don't know if they wanted me to smoke it in front of them, but they went quiet, and they seemed just curious me doing it. They didn't seem offended or anything that I did it. I think they just were watching me do it. So I did that, and then this is a strange one. They gave me a vision of my dad's mother's ex-husband's sister. Okay, and I'm thinking that I actually thought I was thinking this for some reason. So that just popped in my head. For years, until recently, I found out what that was. And I actually forgot all about this, but I was, even in the 90s, I had become open about my experiences. By 95, I'll sort of tell anyone, just, friends, family, just passing through, I'll sort of explain my story. And someone told me that this family member, she claimed that she'd been taken by aliens. And I sort of, this is the only thing that I remember. I remember approaching her, and I forgot this. I actually totally forgot this. I approached her and I, talked to her about it, and she said, "Oh yeah, I've been taken by, or had experiences with aliens and all that. I was taken into a UFO." And I asked her a question: "What are they doing it to me for? What's going on?" And she said something like, "You're experiencing these beings because they like you for some reason." And it wasn't really much of an answer for me. So I sort of fobbed what she was saying off. I probably fobbed her off on her account, even though I had all this weird stuff happen to me. So because I hadn't done much research into it. I mean, we didn't have the internet back then, or to a certain degree, not like now. And just recently, my mum's come up to visit because I live up north now. She came with an auntie, and we're just talking about it, and she reminded me that Alma had been abducted or been in contact with them, and that they apparently fixed her heart, which is something I can't remember even speaking about to her. And that really spun me out, because another really interesting thing happened was probably about 15 years ago. She had a stroke and she wasn't able to speak. But in 2013, a strange thing happened. My father died in 2013, and so there was a funeral, and she came with her daughter's brought her along. She was in a wheelchair, and this is a lady who couldn't speak. But I was actually and I didn't know she had a stroke, because it's a family member I don't really know too well. It's one of those family members you only hear about once every 10 years or so. And she was casually talking to me. She was giving her condolences, saying how there's all these people coming to visit Dad, and this and that. And I said, okay, that's thank you, goodbye. And then I told my mum about it, and she goes, no, that's impossible. She's had a stroke and she can't talk. So that sort of convinced me, without a shadow of a doubt, she was a contactee or abductee or experiencer. And that sort of gave me some sort of idea. She was telling the truth after all. So going back to inside my bedroom. So there was that incident. For some periods of time, I would just be sitting there while I could feel them doing something to me. So I'd be just sitting there quiet, and I could feel something, go to the back of my head or something, or things like that. And so this was going on for a while, and by that time, it started to get light outside. So they'd been with me for about at least probably 7 hours by this time. And then I hear this, like a sound outside, right at the corner from where the balcony is, like this whoop, 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 whoop sound. And they said, oh, we're going, that's a UFO. And I said, do you want to come out and have a look at it? And I was feeling really uncomfortable, really drained. And I said, no, I'll be right. And I could sort of visually see what it looked like anyway. Just a classic disc-shaped UFO. And they basically said goodbye and they left. And then I heard that sound just slowly go away. And then I'm sitting there, it's daylight outside now, thinking, what the WTF, what happened? So then from there, I went back to these minor experiences from, straight after that, early 2000 and 2003. So I suspect that this happened around about, say, late February 2003. Now, I always remember this because this was just before the Iraq War. So I sort of remember around about that time. Then, so after that, again, yearly experiences. Then last year, after I sort of had this revelation, I was, that I may have an implant. I was watching a Whitley Strieber interview. This is a 1990, probably 95 or something. And he was talking quite eloquently. I was sort of impressed by the way he sort of handled the interview. And the subject of implants came up. And I jokingly went, this is my implant, hoo, ha, ha. And then he puts his hand right up the same place and goes, this is where my implant is. And I nearly fell off the couch. Wow. I just went, what the fuck? I've had similar experience that he has. I've got this freaking lump in my bloody ear. And I said, okay, because before I didn't really believe in him. Again, I didn't do much research. I was always researching more geopolitics than anything else. I had an interest, in that subject. But I never had an interest, researching aliens or, abductions or hybrids or anything. And I still thought back then, the hybrid story was a load of BS. And, I think, I was thinking, why would they do it? What's the point? I couldn't really understand. And then, so I started researching. Then I saw there was a UFO festival. It's about almost 2,000 kilometers north of where I am. And I thought I'll drive up there and just because apparently there was going to be some experiences, do some interviews and that. So I thought, it's going to be interesting. I'll check it out. So before I went, I was talking to a friend who lives in Cairns, in Queensland, which is about 2 hours from where he is, the UFO festival. And then this guy is like completely conservative. He's he's got a good job, good wage, has his own house, and he tells me, I sort of told him I'm going to the UFO festival, and he goes, why are you that? And I told him, I've experienced these beings. And then he said, then he tells me he's also an experiencer as well.
Wow.
And so yeah, that was like a wow. And he was apparently he's seen symbols. Apparently he had to have hypnosis to get a lot of this out from a lady called Mary Rodwell. She did a session on him, and apparently he saw Lyran beings. The half alien, half cat-like beings or something. So I ended up going to the festival, but they didn't have the. It was sort of a bit lame. They didn't have the speakers on because a few of them were sick, so they cancelled the speakers. So they just had the rest of the festival, and it was really just Aussie bogans just trying to dress up as aliens. And we, it wasn't spectacular or anything, but it was fun. It was a fun sort of. Almost like a little holiday. There's a little bit of information about the area, and the reason why they have it, the UFO festival there, because they talk about the Cardwell lights, these lights that come out of the sea. You can, as this is on the ocean.
Yeah.
So I thought that was in early August, and then in late August, I'm back home, which I live in Kyogle, New South Wales. I'm laying down in bed, and I hear something outside. So I felt like something landed outside, and I had that dread paralysis effect go over me, and I'm laying there for like 5 minutes, going, what the fuck is going on? I'm trying to, I try to speak out, saying, you beings here, what's happening? Because I couldn't move. That dread paralysis. And then in about 5 minutes later, probably maybe 5-10 minutes later, can't exactly recall, I was able to get up and nothing was there. Nothing's there. So, okay. Following on from that, it was September 9th. I was out I was hiking in Mount Barnsley, and I wanted to do Mount Lindsay the next day, and I couldn't find a suitable camping ground. So I thought I'll just go to the border crossing between New South Wales and Queensland. I'll just stay at the border crossing, and that's where you park your car and you walk out and you go off and climb up Mount Lindsay. Lindsay is also Yowie territory, apparently. I know. Do you know what Yowies are?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like the Australian version of the Sasquatch. And so I was in my car. I just crashed out my car. I put the seat back. I'm laying down, and then I get that intense vibration effect, which I haven't experienced for years. And my whole body's vibrating. My legs, my whole body felt like it was going straight. I can feel my feet kicking the console of the car. And then it stopped, and I'm thinking, shit, that's weird. I crashed at 10 p.m. And then when I end up waking up, it was 10 a.m. And usually if you want to climb Mount Lindsay, you really got to be out there by 8 a.m. So for some reason I'd been asleep for like 12 hours. So I ended up doing Mount Lindsay, come back home. And then shortly after that, I'm in bed and I get that vibrating effect again. I'm going, fucking shit. And I went to turn on my light, my bedside light. So I'm half paralyzed, but I can still move because I've been, can force myself to move. So I turn on the light. The light wouldn't turn on. And so then I grabbed my iPhone to get some illumination. I'm pressing the home button, trying to get some illumination, but there was a black screen. Oh, what the bloody hell's going on? And I'm thinking, these beings messing with me or what's going on? And so, okay, then it stopped. I got up and I'm thinking, what's happening? And then a few weeks later, same thing, but this time was different. I started getting the vibrating effect, and whenever I get that vibrating effect, it would happen, and then it will stop, and that will be it. But this time it stopped, but then it happened again, and I'm going, what the hell? And I started vibrating, whatever, and then it stops, and it started again, and I'm starting to get pissed now. I'm getting really pissed, and it started to freaking stress me out. And then it stopped and it happened again. And I got up and I went, fuck this. And I forced myself up out of this, so-called paralyzed state, forced myself up and trying the bedside light. The light wouldn't work. I got up to my bedroom door, tried the light. That wouldn't work. And then I tried the hall light. That didn't work. I come out and the place is all dark, and I couldn't really. I wanted to have a cigarette because I had a few cigarettes a day, so I just freaking have a smoke. And I couldn't find that. I couldn't see anything because it was dark. So I went to the kitchen to turn on the light. That didn't work. So then I noticed there was a light outside, and it was the solar lights. So the lights were on. So I went out. And then as I looked straight at the solar lights, they dimmed out. But when I looked away from them, they came back on again, like from the corner of my eye. I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on? I'm looking outside. I'm going, what the hell's going on? And then I wake up. I find myself in bed. All of a sudden, I'm thinking, shit, what the frick? And then I'm thinking, then I sort of figured, Am I in the astral realm? Is this what the astral realm's supposed to be? And so, and then for about every week or every second week, it's been happening. And what I do is I sort of get up and I try and experiment. And I think, okay, I'm in this freaking astral realm now. So so once it happened, I turned on the light. I also put a peg next to my bed on my bedside table, and I move it like a clothes peg. Okay, I move it to the side. So then when I sort of know if I'm in the astral realm or not. So if I'm like in the sort of waking realm, the peg's in the middle of the thing, I know I'm back in the. But if I've moved it to the side, I know I'm in the astral realm, you know. And like I started experimenting, I was like, I got a chin-up bar, I tried some chin-ups, and it was super easy. I was kind of feeling really light here. I tried to float, but I couldn't float or fly. So basically, I've been sort of walking around the house experimenting. I saw online someone said don't look in the mirror. So what I do, I look straight in the mirror, right? And when I looked at the mirror, I actually saw myself, but I saw another version of me behind him, or behind me, and another version of me, just looking back at me. And
Wow,
the
really?
guy who, yeah, it's like different versions of me. I've even tried. I thought someone. So when someone mentions something, do this, I'll do it. So I went to the toilet to do a pee. So I did a pee, and then while I'm peeing, I'm thinking, shit, am I going to wet the bed? Luckily, I didn't.
Yeah.
And since then, it started to get a little bit more strange. It's becoming like almost. It starts off normal, but then it goes dreamlike. I could say it's hard to explain. Like it happened to me, and then I thought, okay, next time I'm just going to sit outside and just watch this, see if I can summon some sort of being or something, or entity. And so I go outside. I sit down on the veranda. I'm just like twiddling my thumbs, and I noticed there was this lady behind me. Before I can respond to the lady, I saw a bus come up from the side of the house because I'm basically on a mountain. It's just like, someone's house and trees there, but there was like a road there. And the bus came right up outside the veranda. And I went up to the bus driver and I said, "Where are you going?" And I said, I wouldn't mind jumping on the bus and figure out where you're going. And the bus driver said, "It's not your time." And the lady behind me was counting coins, her coins. But the bus closed and it didn't take either of us. And then it drove off and I woke up. Another time it happened, I heard kids outside. It sounded like kids were playing outside. So I went and put my slippers on and I went outside and I walked up the road a little bit and there was that bus and it was lying across, like it was damaged. It was lying on its side. And then I saw a little boy with long grey hair walk around. He was walking a dog, and I just followed the boy, and he went into this house. I thought I'll just follow him into this house. It just sort of gets really sketchy for me, and then I woke up, and that's sort of like my timeline from now. So that's basically that's that. I've had other
Okay.
other
I'm going to step in now, Leslie. We've got 5 minutes left of the show. I would actually like to say to you, would you like to come back on this show? Because we haven't covered everything, have we? We haven't covered. I'll tell you what we haven't covered, or have we? I'm going to check this with you.
Leslie, I'd like to ask you. You also mentioned that your sister has also had experiences. Is also a contact you, right?
No, they're more. They didn't have the full experience of which I've had. It's more,
No, but I mean, she does.
head syndrome. So, but she just has some feel.
Yes, David Wilkes says this is a great show. He's thoroughly enjoying it, listening to your experiences, Leslie. Leslie, the download account, the alien download account that you actually posted to me. Have we covered all of that?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know if there's anything I've forgotten. I probably sort of went a little bit more detail on the state that I was feeling.
Okay.
Because I'll remember something and I'll add to it.
Yeah. Also, I noticed you had hypnosis, and it failed. Is that right?
Yeah, it didn't work. There was a hypnotist in Gunnellabar, I just tried it out, and I was just basically sitting there for 2 hours. It was trying to put me under. I couldn't go under. My mum, she again to tell her, she was a psychologist, and she did a hypnosis test where they get a pen and you got to keep your head straight and look at it while they lift it up, and apparently they can tell if you can be hypnotized easily or not. And she said it would be difficult
We've
for
got
me.
3 minutes left. So what I'm going to say is, David Wilkes says it's a great show. Thank you for watching, David Wilkes. Thank you, John Millman, Christopher Shearer, Cheryl Capo Bianco, Jim Smith, Kevin Higgins, Brian James. Pleasure to have you here, Brian. Mitch Verno, Bobby Stoikowski. Thank you for joining us, Bobby. Anil J. Ramesh says, thank you for your knowledge, Leslie.
We'd like to have you on again. We'd like to have you on again one day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Anytime. I'm trying to get to the bottom of this. I think it's time for me to reach out.
Well, I think I think as time goes on, the more you'll start to recall, if you know what I mean.
We could have fitted a 2-hour show in with you, Leslie. No doubt about it.
We can have him back on. Yeah,
we can have you back, Leslie. Thinking of Others says, I have been listening, but wanted to say thank you all for the show. Be safe and be wise. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Jonathan Kip. Thank you for David Wilkes for sharing the show. Yeah, the show has been shared like over 85 times. 85 times. That's a lot, a hell of a lot. We got like 2 minutes left. Thank you for your time, Leslie. Thank you for joining us. And I'm glad that you haven't gone insane. You're not mentally unbalanced. You seem to be quite spiritually balanced, Stephen, I'd say. Really. Your mind is
some aspect. I'm trying to sort of understand the spiritual side of because I'm aware there's some sort of spiritual aspect to all this, but that's something for me difficult for me to understand is spirituality. So I've done I studied like Hare Krishna and different religions just to try and understand what consciousness is, and but it's difficult. It's a difficult thing for me, but because I think too much up here and not enough down here. But I'm trying to sort of get a balance.
I think the truth and all the answers come from within, actually.
Mm-hmm. And we got like 60 seconds left. Thank you again, Leslie. Leslie Jon Heldzingen was actually sharing his paranormal experiences regarding an alien contactee and having an implant added to his person as well. Thank you for sharing your experiences with us, Leslie. We'd love to have you back again. And thank you, Jim Andre, for presenting Out of the Box. Thank you to me. Thank you to everyone for watching, all your contributions. Thank you, everyone. Sorry we didn't get to connect with all of you because Leslie had so much to say. It was definitely worth listening to. Okay, well, over to you, Jim Andre.
Yeah, we'll see you all in the next one.
Pleasure. Thank you.